What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Florida's Fittest. It is me, Mark, with Mark and our special guest,
Sylvie.
Sylvie. Sylvie is just went down for a nap, but she might have a few things to say here and there, so just keep that in mind. If Sylvie's anything like Dad and Mom, she's gonna have a few things to say here and there.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so I stopped drinking caffeine Sunday because
Hmm.
I got an espresso machine. I went too nuts with that, so I went cold turkey on Sunday, and that was kind of rough the first 3 days. Um, so I just made one this morning specifically for this podcast, and I used the Jocko Molk protein as my base. It's okay. It's
Hmm.
kind of weird. It's a protein shake with caffeine in it.
Nice. Interesting.
What do you got going on?
I have beetroot juice. It looks like blood of my enemies, but it's
Ooh,
actually beetroot
yeah,
and cold brew
that's a lot
espresso.
healthier. Yeah,
Cold
yeah.
brew espresso, non-cut.
What's what's Sylvie having? Or what did she
Uh,
just have?
Bottle with hyperallergenic formula.
There we go.
She's staring at you because
Sylvie's
she's like,
Syl
"Don't, don't wake me up."
Who's that guy? She's like, I've got allergenic issues, Dad, but I'm gonna be
Yeah,
strong. Totally doable. So,
yeah.
my name is Mark, and that's also Mark. My day job is I'm a nurse, and right now, obviously, I've managed a lot of the media stuff that Mark and I have done over the years. Obviously, this podcast, and my new and aspiring pursuit right now is I'm working on the Humble Guardian program, which is basically a self-defense program that I'm developing for young professionals who want to protect themselves and don't necessarily have the time between the family and their jobs to be able to practice, go to the range all the time. So that's my deal. I'll kick it over to you, Mark, to talk about what
Sweet.
it is that you do.
Yeah. So I am the program director for No Longer Fatherless. My lion logo right here. Um, and we help boys who are fatherless in our community, meaning that they have no contact with a male figure in their life, whether they're incarcerated or they passed away or anything like that, or they see them like once a year. So we provide them with mentors, and we do events every month, sometimes twice a month. And all we require from our mentors is a year commitment and weekly one-to-one mentoring. We find works best. And yeah, we teach them life skills and help them grow and build confidence. And it's an awesome organization. I couldn't ask for a better job.
Yeah, and it will at some point we'll talk about how Mark got into that position, but it's kind of a full circle moment. If you guys watched our first reintroduction episode, we kind of go over Mark's background and his own struggles with his paternal situation, and now you've kind of come full circle to where you're kind of the figurehead and sort of a father figure to a lot of these boys, and
Yeah,
you've gone from your own growing challenges to going into law enforcement, and then from law enforcement into working with more at-risk youth, and now you're in a more pointed program that specifically addresses this particular niche. Um, can you talk to just can you kind of briefly talk about how um, your own experience has kind of given you some insight into how to work in this environment?
yeah, absolutely. So, um, first off, I know what it's like to be, fatherless and not be wanted, and I never want that feeling for another child, right? So, granted, I did have my stepfather come in later in my life, but for a period of time, there wasn't, right? So I had my grandfather,
Yeah,
which is okay, but I didn't have that head paternal figure. So there was a lot of like just that one moment built up so much anger and animosity and just confusion that is hard to kind of manifest otherwise,
yeah.
right? Um, so
So you had like this
that
energy that you needed to kind
mhm.
of direct into something, and
Well,
you were
it's
fortunate
almost
enough to
like
have.
PTSD, right? So I had
Yeah,
a traumatic event, right? and it caused several effects, right? That you know, you know, something that my brother doesn't have because he never knew that part, right? So it's it caused me to have these several effects where I'm just angry and confused, and I have this kind of chip on my shoulder for some reason, right? And I can't get rid of it because I don't have an outlet yet. So, and I understand what a lot of our boys are going through because they are very similar. You know, they're
Yeah.
angry, confused, and it's hard to father a child without a male present, right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of females say like I can do both.
Nope.
Can't really do both.
You
It's
can't. No.
you can't raise a man without a man in the home.
No. And as a matter of fact, statistically, most parenting circumstances that have just a single mother in the situation, there's a greater percentage of incarceration. There's a greater percentage of their
Yes.
children
So
getting into criminality.
yeah. So like statistics, you know, fatherless statistics, um, you know, which is something I worked with when I was in DJJ and law enforcement. You know, 85% of youth who don't have a father figure at home end up in prison. You know, 90% of all homeless and runaway youth are fatherless. You're 71% more likely to drop out of school, right? You're 200 times more likely to be a domestic abuser and substance abuser. Like
Yep.
these are statistics, the base statistics of not having a father figure at home.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's
Yeah.
daunting.
And yeah, it is daunting because what it is it's so just to kind of give you guys a sort of a context here, I'll kind of try to be the Rosetta Stone. I'll kind of be the nerd in this discussion, um, to contextualize a lot of things. So if I kind of sound like a robot sometimes or Spock, that's why. But and that's kind of my own way of how I've dealt with my own. I wouldn't say fatherlessness. My dad has been my natural biological dad has been present in our lives. It's just that there have been stages and periods in my upbringing where he hasn't necessarily been as present as I would have probably needed. I think both Mark and I have a lot of energy, and I think in the modern context, boys are seen as having ADD or ADHD, and it's basically just having a lot of energy. And instead of taking that energy and working with the individual boy, and if you're a girl and this resonates with you, that's awesome too. I don't want to cut you out, but we can only speak to our own experiences and that we're men. It's even funny to say that because I still feel like a boy because I'm still figuring stuff out. But it's hard for us to take that energy and channel it into something which fortunately in some ways, Mark, you had your parents who took that volatile,
Yeah.
explosive energy and helped you funnel it into something. And I, over time, have realized that the discipline of channeling that energy into something is going to be what's productive in helping us to find belonging and find some sense of purpose in the world, which boys and eventually men need in their lives.
Absolutely.
So, with that, and talking about finding a place to channel energy and finding purpose, what I want to discuss is this is sort of my own nuanced discovery is that once upon a time, and I think this is what happens with complex PTSD, is you become very sensitive to everything in the world. It's like your
Yeah.
nerves are on fire because you have to be on high alert. And I think that's what happens is it probably what happened to you in your experiences. Since your sense of security is taken away, you become hyper vigilant and you want to, everything in the world makes you sensitive. To
Yeah.
some boys, you become this like hyper aggressive person because you want to express that out because
Yeah.
it's the only way that you can secure your own environment for yourself. For some people, for myself, I became more sensitive and artistic. I
Mhm.
became very, really sort of inward looking, so I became self conscious. But I think that the tie that binds both Mark and I is that we became very aware of our environment. You could say self conscious in a way, and we developed an awareness and developed a sense for channeling that energy. So can you sort of speak to how the context of physical fitness and athleticism gave you a channel to take that self awareness and put it into something so that you could direct that energy?
Yeah. So, um, yeah, from an early age, like I knew that there was something not quite right with me. Like I was just angry. Um, and uh, I knew that I needed to do something with all that energy. Because you can't, like, I read, it was a quote, I think anger is like a poison. Like the more you have it, the more it like, just seeps in and like it causes harm. So I
Mm,
kind of got that as a kid. Like I can't deal with all this anger. I have to kind of get it out of my system at some point. So um, yeah, and sports was that antidote for me. So my mom had me in everything, and like I said before, like swimming stuck with me, and from swimming, came just taking care of myself. I mean, physical fitness until my adult life. I think stepping into the weight room for the first time, uh, I was probably 13, 12 or 13 years old, and I loved it. Just watching week to week my improvement. It also helped that like I hit puberty a lot faster than a lot of the boys my age. So by like 12, 13, I was already, you know, taller than most of the kids, and I was muscular. I had like a six pack as a 12-year old. Um, and the kids were like, "Whoa, like you look like an action figure." So it was kind of like a self esteem boost. So, and then just it became something that I need to have in my life in order for myself to self regulate. Because even to this day, like I get frustrated with a lot of things, um, and like my outlet is physical fitness. Like if I don't do it, my emotions are all over the place. I'm not in control. So like I have to kind of just like self medicate basically with exercise.
yeah, yeah. I think we just take for granted the fact that we live in this modern world, and we ignore the fact that you as a man are still a man that are flooded with hormones, and between the testosterone and the adrenaline, you have to, like you said, self medicate, and you have to bleed some of that energy out. And I
Mhm.
think that's sort of an outlet that most of us don't have. So we get involved in reckless things because we have all this
Yeah.
energy, we have all this, what you could say, passion, and there's no place to direct it. And
Yeah.
luckily for you, and luckily for me over time, Mark was a D1 athlete. You have been an athlete basically most of your life. I didn't have athleticism, but I think what was fortunate for me and what was fortunate for you in a similar way is you had coaches in your life. I mean, your dad was a coach
Mhm.
who were able to see that and were able to give you avenues and ways to small chunk all of this energy into bite-sized pieces that you could address. I sort of discovered this on my own just when, this is why I say I'm more of a nerd in this respect. I kind of looked at the brain as what the hell is wrong with me? Like
Yeah.
Mark and I have acknowledged, like we just felt like there was something wrong, something off. And it's not that there's something wrong, it's just that there is something that's naturally happening to you as a young man, as a boy, as you're growing up in the world, that in any other natural context would make you a powerful being that's able to conquer entire empires, to take on a bear if you needed to, so that you could defend and protect your tribe and your family. It's just that now in this world, one, you're shamed for what you are. Two, there's no
Yeah.
space for expressing that energy. And three, you don't even have the right mentors and spaces or people to refer to, which by the way you
Yeah.
do, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so what Mark had was, you had your dad, you had your mom, who was also an athlete. For me, it was looking at the human and considering, where do we come from? What do we need? And for me, it was discovering that, like, instead of being self-conscious about my image, because again, it's a self-security thing. It's going, in order to build my confidence, which you had, which
Mhm.
you you developed your athleticism, you performed, you got stronger, you, like you said, started to look like a superhero,
Yeah.
and people acknowledged you for it. For me, it was realizing, oh, being more physically fit, being more physically capable, and then eventually finding avenues to channel that self consciousness into self awareness and developing a sense for, like, let's say for you, when your dad goes, "Hey, you should probably take it easy coming out the gate and not blow up,
Mhm.
so that you can better address the entirety of this whole stage." That gives you a place to channel that, like, self-awareness and aggression and energy, so that you can do it in a more measured way
Yeah.
and create success for yourself.
Yeah. And like, so like, even like speaking like that, like they, giving me stages and avenues and stuff like that. Let's talk about like how just mental motivation or like just words of encouragement. Um, a lot of my coaches were kind of negative in their encouragement, right? And right now, like there's this whole like
That's on
positive parenting
boomers.
movement. Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna sound like a boomer. Um, and like there's these reels that come out like mom versus dad, like how they motivate their kids. I think there's one with football where like the mom's like waking the kid up for football. Is like, all right, I want you to go out there and do your best, and if you win or lose, like I'm still gonna love you. And the dad kicks open the door and he's all yelling already. He's like, you better put a hat on him and break him and blah 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 blah. And I'm trying to whisper because the baby's sleeping, but
Yeah.
it's that's how my dad was, and that's how all my coaches were. Coach Brown, Coach Shove, Coach Crop, back in Long Island, like they all were like that. Just like be aggressive, like run that person down, keep up with him. He's not better than you. You beat him. Touch the wall first. Like those things, like are just on loop in my brain. So
Hmm.
for me, like I'm already wired to just be competitive and go out there and win,
Hmm.
which for a lot of people, like they're like, well, it's okay if you tried your best. I'm like, no, that's not good enough for me.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And I think it's healthy to have that, but it's also, I can see how it could be damaging because if that's your only mindset, you can be really hard on yourself when you don't achieve that.
Yeah. Yeah. There is an example of that when it comes to CEOs who sort of define their entire existence by their successes. And if you only define yourself by your successes and you take an L, there have been examples of CEOs in like the 2008 financial crash that basically unalived themselves because they couldn't appreciate that they had already created such a great amount of success for themselves.
Yeah.
So there is a limit to, like Mark said, just using that tenacity, that aggression to fuel you. I think for me to sort of strike the balance, I what I needed was, um, I experienced the wholeness and the compassion of what my grandmother gave me, and that was sort of the, oh, you're good enough, whatever it is that you do, you're good as you are, and there is a place for that. But I think I think, to put it in perspective, you don't just want to be like, oh, you're good enough, you don't have to try, because existing in the world, you have to try. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
you're defined by what you put out to give to other people. It's not about you. Our brains work on proof, not promises. And just saying,
Yeah.
oh, I'm good enough, doesn't change the fact that if you tell yourself you're good enough and you're homeless, you're still hungry. The fact that you
Hmm.
say that you're good enough, but you're unable to maintain a good relationship or maintain relationships to have friends, there's obviously something wrong. So you need to pay attention to that. And that's where you sort of need to take, okay, I'm good enough because I'm capable of striving for something, but where am I falling short, and where do I need to put a little bit more fuel in the fire to push myself in a direction where it's like I'm not matching up or meeting the standards of putting food in my belly.
Yeah.
creating enough good social circumstances where I am with people that are in good standing with me and I am in good standing with them so I can maintain good social relationships. I can keep a job because that doesn't work in nature. You
No.
sitting there in a field and just saying I'm good enough doesn't change the fact that nature is going to plow you over, going to send a predator. And
Yeah.
it's not that nature is this horrible thing that's going to, it's just nature is just nature. And you as a being of nature and you as a being of God, let's say, you do have to strive and you have to put in something to prove to yourself once again that I can maintain relationships. I can sustain myself and I can get resources and I can provide not just for myself eventually, like in Mark's case, because of everything that you've done, you've reached, and it's not even the end, you've reached this
Yeah.
sort of culmination where you now have a Sylvie, I now have an Ava, and
Yeah.
and this new set of challenges grows because now we have to provide not just for ourselves. That still remains that we can say, I'm good
Yeah.
enough as Mark, you're good enough as Mark, but now we have to be even greater because now we have to provide for the Sylvies and Avas of the world.
Absolutely. And when you were talking, I was just thinking like how differently I coach my athletes, right? So for my boys, I can be that kind of, hey, I need you to get up, get in his face, race him all the time, like super aggressive. And then for my girls, I have to be a little bit softer, right? So,
Yeah,
um, and like one of the things that one of my female athletes, she told me, she's like, you were the first coach that believed in me, and that made me so much better, right?
yeah,
And they need that like, kind of reassurance and that soft spoken. Like I have another athlete, great athlete, and she has like she gets really hard on herself, and she gets a little bit of anxiety when she doesn't do well. And I have to reassure her, like, hey, you're fine. You're doing everything you need to do. Let's kind of lock in and get ready for the next race. Like, go warm down, get your mind right. Like, come back to me. He's like, this is what went wrong. He's like, this is how we fix it. Let's put it behind us, and let's move forward. And every time, I kind of settled her nerves, she locked in, and she was great the next time around. So it's totally different where I can almost yell and like just be a jerk to like one of my male athletes, and they'll fire them up and like they'll get them going. And with the girls,
yeah,
like I have to be so much more soft spoken and basically be dad for the moment, and just kind of like just make sure they're reassured, make sure they're loved, and they just ultimately perform better. And
yeah,
that's something that I've kind of seen, you know, just being a parent right now, and also as a coach like of these young athletes. It's a weird dynamic and something that I didn't really see, as an athlete, because I only saw the one side, obviously, because as a athlete coach relationship. But now as a coach, I can see both sides of the coin, where my male athletes get one side of me and my female athletes get different.
yeah.
So it's interesting that way.
It's interesting, and I almost want to say it's not necessarily a matter of they're two opposite, completely different things, not black and white. It's almost like on a spectrum. I hate that word only because it's been so overused in the last like
Yeah.
10 or so years. Um,
Mhm.
but I want to say that it is a spectrum because, like I was saying about me, I think if you don't necessarily have the foundation of someone who can say, or if I haven't created the proof or the references for myself to say that I am good enough because I've achieved certain things in the past, the way that you spoke to your female athletes, you needed to kind of remind them, hey, you did incredible this last meet, this last stage. Do that, add a little more, add
Yeah.
2% more, 5% more. So that gives people the context, just like this is why I came to really love the barbell. The barbell doesn't lie about what you are capable of. Oh no, Sylvie's got something to say. So the barbell doesn't lie about what it is that you've done, but the barbell also doesn't lie about what you're capable of. If you
Yeah.
add on another 5, 10, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, you can predictably see, instead of this vague cloud of self consciousness that I used to have, I was able to contextualize it in a way that I knew what I had done before and what I could do moving forward, and I could almost chart it in a graph. This is why it's so amazing to have guys like Mark or have a coach who has had the experience of seeing these things, because they can see and they can track and they can almost remind you, hey, I know these seems daunting right here, right now in the moment. And that's not a guy or a girl thing. Sometimes just that's just again, that's just
Yeah,
how
human thing.
someone might take it. Yeah, it just might be how someone takes it. I might be the kind of guy that's like, hey, I know you're struggling right now, but this is just right now. This is just this heat. This is just this stage. You actually feel awful right now, but you actually really did really well. I just need you to add another 2%. I just need you to put another 10 pounds on the bar. And I swear to you, just based on what you've been doing, based on the trajectory of everything that you've done, you're capable of actually doing this next stage, this next heat, this next match, this next whatever, a lot better than you did before.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it just talking to them that way, like you can see it in their lives, like you see the gears turning, you see like the belief building inside them,
Yeah,
and that's huge. Um,
yeah,
and it's an awesome feeling too as a coach because you know it's working.
yeah,
Like you can see it, like you know it's working, and like there's very few feelings that are better than that.
yeah. And I think we'll wrap it up here for this episode. But I think one last takeaway that I want to say, and I think you would probably agree with this, just like raising a child, just like you discussed a story in a prior episode about that one kid who had cerebral palsy. Ultimately, at the end of all of this, raising children, building athletes, helping a kid with cerebral palsy, your legacy that you're going to put out into the world is what you share with these people. You're not going to be holding their hand for the rest of their lives, but but that nugget of what you gave them is what they'll carry into the future to be able to, on their own, sustainably and with their own personal accountability and their own sense of freedom, achieve all this greatness. And you're basically wiring or coding or programming your own voice into their head that they can take for themselves and achieve their own levels of successes into the future.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said before, like I have just like this amalgamation of like all my coaches, like just looped in my brain, and
Yeah,
some of my coaches have passed away, and that legacy of what they said, like you know, if you always did what you always done, you always get what you always got. That was something Coach Schoaf always said, like repeatedly, like every day, and that's stuck with me for it's going to be for the rest of my life, and I'm going to pass it down to my kids. And honestly, some of my athletes have heard me say it. I know, Sylvie, you're upset. I know. You got to go lay down.
that's yeah. This is going to be a good point for us
Yeah,
to kind of transition, but yeah, that's the whole mission that we're trying to do here is about taking the legacy of all our lessons and sharing it with people out there. So just to wrap it up for just to wrap it up here for Sylvie, so Sylvie can go lie down and get some rest. Um,
yeah, she's
again,
she's good. She's good.
but we'll wrap it up here on this episode.
Yeah.
It's always cool to kind of contextualize this with you, so that we're gonna die. There's just no there's no way around it. But
Yeah.
it's cool to know that our legacy is gonna live on with our children or the people that come into our lives, and hopefully we'll have a good impact on them.
There you go. Good. You feel better.
So,
Just got gas.
oh boy, yeah, that's gonna be unbearable.
Yeah.
She'll learn. It's gonna be okay. So, any
It's got
last
lactose, man.
part?
Trying to get it out of her system.
I don't know. Any last parting words?
Yeah, I mean, just like I said, with that legacy, you know, all these lessons that we've learned from our past and the people who have influenced us most. Like I want to be able to pass that on. Um, things that my dad taught me, things that my coaches taught me, things that my grandfather taught us. It's just those are the lessons I want to pass down, and even the lessons I had to figure out myself. I haven't come up with an awesome quote yet. That will stick with people, but um, like I feel like the best thing I can tell some of my kids is like, complacency kills. Like, don't let your foot off the brake. At the end of the day, you're gonna have to be aggressive
Yeah.
and execute your game plan. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like
Yeah.
the only parting words I could think that builds to like my legacy of what I went through and what you know helps me get through things.
Yep.
Be aggressive because you're the only person that can actually do things for yourself.
Yeah. The world can be a cruel place, and we won't always have the luxury of having our parents, having our step parents, or having great mentors, but we can keep the spirit and the voices of those great mentors in our heads to drive us forward through the challenges that life is going to throw our way. I
Absolutely.
think uh, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So
Yep.
if you want to find us, I'll drop all the socials for us so you can find us in the future. But any other final parting words there, Mark?
No, man, I'm good. All
Cool. All right.
right.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you guys take something good out of this, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
All right. See you guys.
Peace.